Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If I'm rain, shine, or anything between, we're here to look to you, the Kansas State sporting news that you so love. I'm Nate Edwards, right alongside
Connor Balthazar.
And good Lord, we've not been in a big sports weekend. We were recording this right after the Chiefs Broncos game, in which there's exactly one person in the K-State community that is happy. Congratulations to John Grove. I apologize for the next 2 hours of bullying that you will receive for being a Broncos fan. You'll get through it. You always have. But, yeah, we said it going into this game. No one should feel proud of beating this Oklahoma State squad. And we said it would be an abject failure and horribly, horribly alarming if K-State did not beat them by like 3 scores. This was a 14-6 game, and I told my girlfriend we were watching this game, and by we, I mean I. She was asleep, and honestly, I am very jealous of her. She was either asleep or in the other booth at the restaurant we went to. Shout out El Mezcal 3 in Topeka. But
Some good place.
not free ads. But this is a game that if I wanted someone to hate football for the rest of their life and they've never seen a game before, this is the game I would show them. That or like a really bad, like, I don't know, tank bowl between the Jets and the Browns. But right now for college football, this takes a cake.
Yeah, this was just a horrific game from start to finish. I mean, the first drive for K-State was horrible. The second drive got out to a great start with a wide zone run to Joe Jackson, which I was so happy to see because I'm a wide zone out of pistol mega enjoyer. And then we threw it 3 straight times and punted. And that was kind of the whole game in a microcosm, I think, was finding something that worked and electing to not do that instead. This game kind of felt like Matt Wells came in with the idea of wanting to do something, it not working, and instead of adjusting, try and justify his beliefs from before the game by just not really making the changes that were necessary. And it's not all on Matt Wells. That's not to justify anything he did in this game. This is to say that other people were terrible in this game as well. Like the entire offense really looked largely like they didn't particularly care to be there. More so than almost any K-State game I can think of in my lifetime. You'd probably have to go back to the COVID season, Bills last year, and after that, probably 2008, I guess. This was just horrible to watch. Unfortunately, I was at the KU volleyball game too, which wasn't much better, but we were trying. We weren't trying very well, but for the most part, there was effort in that. And it was a good environment. And it's a team that's still going to make the postseason and has done reasonably well this year and is on the upward trajectory. Can't really say that for this football program right now. We are currently cratering, and I think this game against Oklahoma State was a stark look in the mirror of what awaits us if changes aren't made.
Yeah. I'll start by talking about Matt Wells. I think I've gotten the reputation, and is the reputation deserved, probably, of being like the biggest Matt Wells defender, because I think a lot of the time, as with most offensive coordinators, I don't think a lot of it is his fault. This is one of those weeks where, I think a lot of it can be pinned on him because it's a microcosm of what his biggest problem has been the entire year. He will see something working, and, Connor, how many times have I said it this year? Process over results, because good process leads to good results.
Plenty of times. That phrase is ingrained in my head now. It has changed the way that I watch football games.
Yeah. There are times that Matt Wells this year has had good process, and there have been other times this year where a play that, theoretically works, but isn't executed on properly, he will just completely write it out of the playbook and start turtling into what he is most familiar with. And that's not adjusting, that's turtling. There is a very distinct difference between the two. One is trying something new, adjusting, and the other is regression and trying to go back to staples, basically. And I think the biggest problem with this matchup was Matt Wells just turtled so bad. And I think that, spoiler alert, I am thinking about making another video about the K-State offense at the end of the year. And the working title for that video is Everyone is Wrong about what the K-State offense was this year. Because I'll admit I was incorrect to say that it was, this above average offense schematically. I think just purely schematically on paper, you take out execution, I think it's bang average, if not very slightly above. So I don't think that Matt Wells is this amazing play caller, but I don't think that he's the worst play caller I don't even really think he's the worst play caller of the Kleiman era. I just don't think people are ready to have that conversation yet. But still, it wasn't good, and this just showed all the problems that Matt Wells had at Texas Tech, and even that has followed him here at K-State. And it's just he regresses so bad the moment that anything goes wrong. When things are going well for Matt Wells, he's probably at least top half of the conference in terms of play calling. But when things are going bad, he immediately shoots himself all the way down to like bottom 2. And the thing is, with offense, things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every game has had major issues offensively in one way or another. Maybe the KU game, I guess, being the exception. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was a really good game. But, I mean, yeah, this was one of the worst offensive games for K-State in a really long time, particularly when adjusting for quality of opponent. I mean, I think, North Dakota is better than Oklahoma State. I think this was the worst team on our schedule, honestly. And I genuinely, truly believe that without a hint of irony. And we, honestly, I think another thing that really concerns me is even if we walked into this game and didn't have the level of care that we should have, that still should have been able to get us to at least a 2-3 score win, if still being a fairly ugly win. We saw that on the defensive end, where the defense, in all honesty, I don't think was as good as being credited for. I think that they were good, but I don't think that they were outstanding in this game. I think that they took advantage of the opportunities allotted to them by Oklahoma State, because Oklahoma State's offense, basically every turnover was an unforced major mistake by Oklahoma State. Even the Ryan Davis forced fumble, they just did not account for him in their blocking scheme, and they left a tight end to kind of watch that side, and he just totally whiffed. The interceptions were especially the trick play interception. That was basically receiving a punt for Daniel Cobbs. VJ Payne, same deal. There's fair arguments for good plays being made on the deflected pick by virtue of the deflection, and then Cody Stufflebean's strip sack. That was an effort play by Cody. He deserves a lot of credit for that. But really, Oklahoma State, if they hadn't, when getting close to the red zone, forgotten what little of football they do understand, they could have beaten us in this game, I think. I think you don't have to stretch too far to make that realization that Oklahoma State really did have a clear pathway to victory in this game the entire way through. And you could even argue should have won, I think, despite how poorly their offense played and how willing they were to turn the ball over I mean, 5 turnovers is absurd no matter how bad you are at football. Like, I mean, a lot of the FCS teams that they trot out for the SEC schools to play in the middle of November don't turn it over 5 times. So, like, it was pretty bad. But, yeah, by and large, this is one of the worst games I've seen in terms of coaching and execution at K-State in my entire life. The fact that we still won it is an indictment on Oklahoma State, honestly, because that team is just terrible. But it's also a major indictment of K-State and the fact that it was even close. Like, this is a genuinely embarrassing result. I'll take a moment to not make an excuse for Kleiman's statement because I'm going to get to the negative part of it. I'm going to say it's okay to enjoy a win no matter how you get it when you're like on the team. If you still have the understanding that you did not play well, like when that happens. And I think that they probably do get that. But it's fine to tell your players after a win to be like, hey, you won a football game. Like, that's good. With that being said, you cannot go to fan-facing media and be like, this is a tough place to play. Oklahoma State's better than their record and all that stuff. Because it's just patently false, and even casual fans know that. Because casual fans probably watch the game and realize Oklahoma State is really bad. And they also can read body language. Even if they don't know X's and O's very well or the talent on the roster, the average fan can watch and tell to a reasonable degree if players and coaches are trying and caring. And that just wasn't immediately obvious in this game. I think Kleiman got fired up a few times on the sideline, like when the field goal operation wasn't working, because I think we had a lineman get out there late, and we were going to get a delay a game. So, I mean, and that's a fair thing to get fired up about. And they had a few other times where he was too, but I don't know. Something is missing in the process that we aren't seeing, whether it's the coaches is not doing a good enough job in scouting and getting guys prepared and taking the game seriously, or whether it's a player issue, an execution or talent level. Like maybe we just totally overestimated the talent level of this team to a certain level. We probably did in some positions, but I don't know. There needs to be a pretty heavy dissection of what has gone wrong with this team, because like this is just an absolute nightmare season relative to expectations.
Yeah, and I'll try to sprinkle in a little bit of positive in that I do like how some of the people on defense played. Ryan Davis finally showed up to what his potential is as like a motor pass rusher who has a lot of technical upside. He is like right now, if I were, constructing next year's roster, he's probably option 1B or 1C for the first guy that I really, really want back out of the most people on that defense. 1A is probably Zayshawn. Daniel Cobbs, I think, had a few heads-up plays. And, of course, I will always be happy when Daniel Cobbs is mentioned. Asa Newsom, I thought, played fine given his role. I mean, it's not an enviable position to have to fill in for Austin Romaine. I don't envy that position, but I think he did fine. I agree with you in that I don't think the defense played well at all. I just think Oklahoma State is that bad. But defense is unique from offense in that you could have individual players flash with a lot of like a pretty decent amount of consistency and just not have it really work out that well. Also, shout out Cody Stufflebean. He had the effort play, but the offensive side of the ball, the only person I think you could say had a good game was Jace, and now he's done for the year and probably going to the NFL after this season.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on your positives. Like, I've been wildly negative so far in this episode, but like like you said, there's still guys that played well for K-State. But I mean, yeah, most of the team really just didn't have a good game. I mean, that much is obvious to those who watched, but yeah, I mean, there were some solid plays on the defensive front here and there. I thought Cheedy, I thought, had a couple of decent reps, kind of sailing the edge on some wide runs, which Cheedy's been a little up and down this year, so that was nice to see. And then I agree with everything you said about Ryan Davis and Daniel Cobbs. But yeah, I'm just really wildly disappointed with how this year has gone. And I mean, I've also on this show like been willing to defend Matt Wells. A big part of the reason, and it's partly the same reason for Connor Riley as well. And it is that I do think that generally speaking, and I think you said this a bit as well, Ace, is that people are overwhelmingly negative with pretty much every offensive coordinator in the game of football, no matter what level you're at, because people typically only notice the bad and rarely give credit for the good. And that's kind of athletics wide, but especially true for the offensive coordinator in football. I mean, if we go back just a couple years, people were not happy with Colin Klein, K-State in 2023.
Tulane game.
Yeah. The first 3 games of 2022, people were ready for Klein to be fired. And people have forgotten that and are ready to bring him back. But if you go look at A&M fans, they hate him. Like, I mean, they're online fans. Like, they think that he's an idiot, and they have one of the best offenses in the country. They just had an incredible comeback against South Carolina, and they're unbeaten, and they still hate their offensive coordinator. And like, that's a team with a lot of offensive weapons that they've put together. So I try to level that out by being a bit more forgiving to the offensive coordinator. And like you said, try to see the process over the results when possible. But for the grace that I've given Matt Wells this year, and I've given him plenty of criticism too, I am getting off the train at this station with Matt Wells, and I suppose by extension his brother Luke, because I picture Matt as dragging Luke with him wherever he goes. But yeah, I'm kind of done with Wells. This is something we talked about a little bit, Ace, before the episode, kind of this afternoon over text, and have in the past, I think, brought up on the episode, is coordinator continuity. At K-State, if we get rid of Matt Wells, that'd be Avery's 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years, which is bad. That's not good for a quarterback's development at all. And I agree that that'd be a major issue. And I think was one of the stronger arguments for bringing Connor Riley back, which we were planning on doing in the first place. But on the flip side of it, we can't necessarily, at least in my mind, commit to bringing a guy back for the sake of continuity if the continuity isn't good. And I think you would agree with that as well. I don't want to put words in your mouth or frame it as like that thought being against what you think. But I wanted to reference past things we've brought up on the show regarding justifications for Matt Wells coming back or not. But I'm pretty well past the point of giving him any grace anymore, at least broadly speaking, in an individual game. I mean, if he calls a great game the next week, the next 2 weeks, then more power to him. But honestly, even if he does that, sans just absolute miracles, I think I'm fine punting on that experiment. I don't think it's worked out. I don't think Avery is demonstrably that much better. I think as a passer, he's made some improvements here and there, but remains inconsistent and still won't run when we need him to, with a handful of exceptions. So, sure, it would certainly be frustrating bringing in another coordinator for Avery, because that would be, assuming he stays, his fourth coordinator in 4 seasons. But like I just can't really justify the idea to myself anymore bringing Matt back for another year when I think that he's not the sole reason that the offense has been bad, but he is the man in charge of the offense. And whether it's a personnel issue or an execution issue, he's been here a couple years, and he had plenty of opportunity to bring in guys that he thought were good and influence decisions at other positions. And we're at where we're at. So that's kind of where I stand on him.
Here's what I will say is that if Matt Wells is back next year, I'm not going to burn it down. If he's not back next year, I'm not going to complain. That is more or less where I'm at with him, because it's difficult to defend, especially this matchup and the Arizona matchup. Both teams that I think Arizona's league's better than Oklahoma State, obviously, but that's not an accomplishment. And like, if he's back, fine. If he's not back, fine. But the primary role of an offensive coordinator or even a defensive coordinator at any level of football is to find a way to get your guys in the best position that you possibly can. Now, Bill Belichick has had his star sort of, this is a deep cut, has had his star sort of massively dulled as of late because of how his NFL stint went and how North Carolina is a tire fire right now. But his roster building philosophy when the Patriots were good was, let's not focus on what a guy can't do. Let's focus on what the guy can do and then focus on that skill set. So that's why you had a bunch of guys that, they weren't these amazing star players, but they had a skill and they knew how to utilize that skill. And that's why, and that's where, in my opinion, the Matt Wells era has been a failure. And honestly, I can't think of an offensive coordinator at K-State that was really, really good. Like, they elevated the talent just by virtue of how they played, except for Colin Klein. And everyone hated him. Again, but that's the virtue of being an offensive coordinator and an offensive mind. I'm not going to be horrendously upset if Matt Wells is gone. Now, what I will be upset with is if Matt Wells is gone and we just get like I don't want a pro style coordinator. And I think that that's what Klein would be most likely to get, is a pro style coordinator. And we can go all day about the different scheming philosophies of how Colin Klein has operated offense, how Courtney Messingham has operated an offense, Connor Riley, now Matt Wells. All of those sort of had that same spread power mindset, Matt Wells being more of an air raid RPO guy. He's sort of the exception. I'm worried that we're going to turn into like a North Dakota State style pro offense. And we do not have the horses to do that at the Power 4 level. Like, even if we're recruiting the offensive line at a very, very high level, which I think we are, though granted it hasn't shown up on the field recently. I think we still need just another year of development. I'm waiting for Navarro Shunky hours, but that is my worry, is we fire Matt Wells, everyone's super excited, and then we hire someone who isn't going to develop Avery as a passer.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most valid worry I think about getting rid of Matt Wells is getting somebody worse, particularly because since Klein, we have just gotten worse coordinators with every step. But I think even if that is the worry, I don't know if we can justify keeping Matt Wells based on the performance that he's had this year. I mean, like, Avery still hasn't really gotten better under Matt Wells. So if the worry is he won't improve under a new coordinator, that already isn't really happening, I think, with maybe a bit of exception. But I do kind of share your fears that Kleiman won't make an inspired hire at offensive coordinator. I think that's totally reasonable because for the most part, we haven't really made any major splash hires, or even ones that we look at and there isn't like an obvious critique, like Luke Wells, for example. Lepak was a good promotion to tight ends coach, hasn't worked out at offensive line yet, but I suppose only time will tell if that's a personnel issue or a coaching issue on the line as of now. Matthew Middleton, I guess, has been solid as the receivers coach, I think, as an outside hire.
He's like one of the few position coaches that I would be genuinely sad if he left.
Yeah, which I think says a lot about our position coaches. Most of them, if they left, we wouldn't really be too broken up about it, other than the fact that we'd have to do a search and find another one. But yeah, I don't know. Like and there's another part of me that's itching about this, and it's that I almost don't know if it matters because I don't think that, barring just untold levels of pressure from the donor class, that like we're going to see significant changes to the style of offense. We might see changes in who's sitting at the table and the offensive position meetings, but I don't know how significant of a change we'll end up seeing when it comes to the style of play. Because really the only times that we've seen significant changes in style of play have come kind of at the behest of Colin Klein. We always saw some changes there, and we've seen some from Matt Wells this year. We've seen some of his fingerprints on the offense, but really this has felt more like Kleiman offense than Wells offense, at least to me. With maybe the exception being we've run a bit more RPO, but I don't know. I also feel like I just don't see Kleiman as the coach for K-State beyond 2026. So I'm sitting here thinking, does it matter if we fire Matt Wells and hire another guy to come in for what will certainly only be 1 year, and then we just completely flip over the staff for somebody else? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, we don't want to flush away a season before it starts just because we're looking to, I don't know, save some money, I guess. But outside of that, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if there's going to be enough pressure to get Kleiman to retire this year. I'm at the point where I'm fine with that. And I don't think I really want him to be the coach much longer at K-State. I understand that people really like him and that he's a good person, like that people like. But I mean, the program is kind of stale. I think we're getting to a point where it feels like the program's rotting. Even like this season is really starting to feel like the latter end of Bill Snyder's second tenure at K-State. It feels like things are like slowing down, the gears are rusting, and we're all just kind of sitting and watching. And Gene Taylor was initially brought in to kind of be the outside guy to make the changes necessary, like make the tough choices, because he wasn't really connected to the situation. The difference here, of course, is that Kleiman is Gene's guy through and through. And like Kleiman has a $30 million buyout. Like there are significant hurdles that exist financially to changing coaches this offseason. With, of course, the chief one being that I just don't think Gene would do it. Like, I think there's a 0% chance that that's happening, like, frankly. Like, if Kleiman is not the coach here next year, then Gene's not the AD here either. Like, I think it's that simple. But I don't think basically whoever the OC is next year, like, that's going to be the last year that they're the OC, I think.
I'm sorry. I brought this up before, and I brought it up in text. And I think that this is as good a note to end on as any, because I think we're just kind of talking ourselves down the rabbit hole here. And okay, there's two things that I'll mention. One that is genuinely funny, and the other is you have the choice of laughing or crying. I'll let you take your pick. The first one is we actually, as of now, have ratioed the official Oklahoma State football Twitter account by saying that normally we would sauce on them, but we are not proud of ourselves and we have nothing to be proud of. That is one of the most embarrassing and yet hilarious things that we have ever done on our Twitter account. I think it may take the cake from ratioing KU baseball with the chicken nugget meme.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I did not realize that, but I guess that's not surprising.
That is, I think, the funniest thing we've ever done. The second thing is, you said the offensive coordinator next year won't be the offensive coordinator the year after that. You are correct, because welcome Matt Wells' era.
Matt Wells is the head coach at K-State. Something I've thought about recently is what would it take for me to not go to the games anymore? Like, because I've really not intentionally missed many home games in my life. The number's small. And there's a chance that would be enough to get me to not want to show up. Maybe a couple out of curiosity, but that would be, I think, a pretty quick way to get me to lose interest. I think it'd be a quick way to get a lot of people to lose interest as well. So I'm just going to pretend you didn't say that. But another thing I want to bring up, I know we're kind of winding down here, is I did see some comments online from Oklahoma State fans. So anecdotal, but it was telling to see it from other fan bases that don't watch us every week. And it was Oklahoma State fans talking about how checked out our team looked and how little it seemed we cared. And those are fans of a team that is currently 1-9 and hasn't beaten a conference opponent since 2023.
Yeah, that's
like we have fans of that team saying we look bad or we look like we don't care. That should raise significant alarm bells in everybody's head. I mean, and is maybe the single biggest indictment of Kleiman post Big 12 championship that you could possibly have, I think. Because really, since that moment, things have kind of started to unwind, I think. And this year, it's really started to be bad. I think if you go back to last year, I think the Houston game is really the dividing point between things holding together and things getting bad. And I fear if we keep climbing past this year, which we almost certainly are, I fear that things are going to get a lot worse before they get any better. Maybe I'm feeling that way because it was just a generally awful weekend for sports after what was actually a pretty good week, which is weird. Like this whole weekend is like just wiped out what was otherwise a good week. But yeah, it's we're in a rough spot right now. Hopefully people are at the very least awake at the wheel right now. Because I think if we're going to get the changes that people seem to really want online, which I think is just wholesale, not only new football staff, but people are really kind of starting to.
They're starting to sour on Gene too.
Yeah, the vultures are kind of circling around Veneer at the moment, and that's going to be stuff that's going to come from people outside Veneer. So we're kind of getting into larger scale stuff that we don't talk about much on the show. But I mean, that's going to be stuff to look at for the board of directors for athletics, the board of regents, President Linton, who, for what it's worth, is a very big fan of sports. He is a big time sports guy. So if things aren't going well, he cares. Like that. I also think he's probably had PR training since the Naquan incident. So,
oh God. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
What I'm going to do is I wrote it down, but I am going to inlay one of my favorite memes to kind of close out the episode before we get final remarks. I think if I just sort of say the name, you'll recognize it. I'll probably overlay it over me saying it. It's like,
"Hey friend, listen up. I know the world is scary right now, but it's gonna get way worse."
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that things are probably going to get worse before they get better.
Yeah. Everything is in the hands of Jerome Tang right now.
Oh God.
To save the city.
Anyway, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. If you want to follow or contact the show, you can follow us just about anywhere at Aggieville Alleycats. And if you want to email us, we're AggievilleAlleycats@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on a more personal note, I am at ACEdward00.
I'm at Conaboutsor, capital C, capital B.
And if you want to support the show financially, please be sure to check out the official Aggieville Alleycats merch store, link found in our podcast and Twitter bio. But most importantly, thank you all for listening to this episode of the Aggieville Alleycats podcast. Where come rain, shine, or anything between, we're here to deliver to you the Kansas State sporting news you so love. Stay safe, Alleycats.